Once upon a time, there was a young woman named Tiwi. She was 23 years old and thought she knew everything about life. No matter how many times her mother warned her about the dangers of the outside world, Tiwi never listened. She believed she was an adult and could make her own decisions. Tiwi had the habit of making reckless choices, and those choices often led her into trouble. Tiwi is fond of doing things that her mother warned her not to do. One evening, while Tiwi and her mother were preparing dinner in the kitchen, she got a message from her best friend Lami about a big party that will be happening that night. It was a very big party where all the high and mighties of the state will be in attendance. Tiwi was very excited about the party, told her mother, but her mother warned her not to go. But Tiwi decided that she would never miss such a party. She waited for her mother to fall asleep. She rushed into her bedroom, slipped into a short dress, not caring that it was a night party, and she gently snuck out of the house. She knew the party had long started. She was filled with so much tension and desperation to meet up with time, so she decided to grab a taxi by the roadside. Tiwi entered the taxi and headed straight to the party, but something strange happened. The taxi driver started driving in the wrong direction. When Tiwi tried to talk to him, he completely ignored her. The music in the car grew louder, drowning down her voice. Panicking, Tiwi reached for her phone to call someone, but the driver grabbed it away from her and told her to keep quiet. Tiwi's heart raised. She realized she was in big trouble. The taxi sped down a lonely road, and she knew something wasn't right. In a moment of desperation, Tiwi jumped out of the moving car and landed on the ground. Rolling across the gravel, she was in pain, but she didn't stop. She got up and ran as fast as she could, her torn dress fluttering behind her. Luckily, she ran into a kind lady named Abike, the daughter of a very wealthy politician who was returning home after an evening dinner. She saw Tiwi walking alone on the lonely road. "Where are you going all alone?" she asked. Tiwi narrated the entire story to her. She looked at Tiwi in pity. She looked at her bruised body, her bruised knees, and the way she was limping. She said to her, "I will take you to the hospital, my dear." When they got to the hospital, Tiwi was treated of her injuries, and Abike stayed with her the whole time. Tiwi was so grateful to Abike for saving her life when she had no one else to help her. From that moment on, they became best friends. Abike invited Tiwi to her house, and when she got there, she saw a glamorous world of wealth and affluence. Abike carried Tiwi along whenever she was going for her exquisite parties. She introduced her to other wealthy children and showered her with expensive gifts. Tiwi was in awe of Abike's lifestyle and desperately wanted to belong. However, her friendship with Abike doesn't sit well with her mother. "I don't like this your new friend," her mother said one evening as Tiwi got ready for another outing. "There is something strange about her, but I just can't place my hands on it. As your mother, Tiwi, I am advising you to stay away from that girl." "Mama, I don't know why you tend to see something wrong with every new friend I make," Tiwi replied. "You don't have any rich friend, and I don't want to end up like you, Mama. You are just here, hating on an innocent girl, instead of you to be thanking God for the privilege of giving me a friend like Abike." Tiwi's mother swallowed hard and said, "It is well. I just pray you don't learn the hard way." Days passed, and Abike invited Tiwi to another mansion built by her father in the outskirts of the town. It was a grand mansion, bigger than anything Tiwi had ever seen in her life. "Wow!" Tiwi gasped as she was looking at the gold-trimmed furniture, the sparkling chandeliers, and the exquisite marble flooring. "Your house is like a palace," she said to Abike, who laughed and revealed to her that they had several other mansions, finer than that, scattered all over the town. Tiwi could not believe her ears. She wanted this kind of life, a life filled with luxury and power, where she could afford whatever she wanted. They arrived at Abike's room, and Tiwi could not hold back her shock. Abike had hundreds of wigs lined up in her bedroom, expensive wigs that Tiwi could only dream of having. Abike reached out to one of her wigs and presented it to Tiwi, whose eyes widened in disbelief. As she held the wig in her hand, it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Soft, silk and luxurious. Bike convinced her to try it on, and Tiwi slipped the wig on her head with excitement. She looked at herself in the mirror and could not believe what she was seeing. She was looking so beautiful. Tiwi in that moment could not help but imagine how beautiful life would be in Abike's shoes. She turned and looked at Abike, who informed her that the wig now belongs to her. "It's all yours," Abike said to Tiwi, who froze in shock, realizing how expensive the wig was. Tiwi had never received such an expensive gift before. She wanted to refuse it, but Abike insisted that she keeps it. Hours later, Tiwi arrived home and the wig was in her hand. Her mother, on seeing it, asked where she got the wig from. Tiwi revealed that it was a gift from Abike. Tiwi's mother was so furious to hear this. Her cousin, Uju, who was visiting on that day, on hearing who gave Tiwi the wig, was surprised and wondered how Tiwi met and became friends with someone from such a wealthy and influential family. Uju tried to calm Tiwi's mother down, but she continued yelling angrily at Tiwi, demanding that the wig must be returned. But Tiwi ignored her mother and walked into her room, shutting the door behind her. She could not understand why her mother hated Abike so much, despite all the wonderful things that Abike had done for her. All through that night, Tiwi had a smile on her face. She had never felt so important before. She carefully hung the wig in her wardrobe as she drifted off into sleep, thinking about the mansion and the life of luxury that she so desperately yearned. The next morning, Tiwi woke up by a terrible itch on her scalp. At first, she tried to ignore it, scratching lazily as she was still feeling very sleepy. But the itch became unbearable, like tiny needles pricking her all over her head. She groaned aloud and sat up fully, scratching aggressively as she wondered what could be the cause of such a terrible itch. Then she felt something squishy between her fingers. Tiwi brought her hand down and looked. Lo and behold, maggots were stuck between her fingers, tiny white maggots wiggling in and out of her scalp. Tiwi was petrified. She let out a loud scream, and her mother, who was still fast asleep, jumped out of her bed and rushed to her in her room. "What is it?" she asked Tiwi, whose hands shook in terror as she pointed at her hair. Her mother almost passed out of shock as she saw the maggots crawling through her daughter's scalp. "Blood of Jesus!" she cried as she grabbed the scalp and tried to wipe the maggots away from her daughter's head. The more they tried to wipe out the maggots, the more the maggots oozed out of her scalp. Her mother, in terror, screamed out for help, and soon neighbors gathered. They were too scared to come close. They stood afar, watching in horror as Tiwi pleaded for someone to save her. Tiwi was taken to several hospitals, but there was no medical explanation for her condition. Nothing they did was able to kill or stop the maggots from coming out. Her face became swollen, her eyes red because of sleepless nights and constant crying. Tiwi's mother was overwhelmed with grief and desperation. One evening, she said to Tiwi, "Tomorrow morning, we will be going to the church. God will heal you, my daughter. We need to go to him for healing." Tiwi turned and looked at her mother, with her face filled with intense anger. "No, Mama. No church. All they want is offerings and seeds. Prayers and healing that comes with envelopes and seed sowing. If money is all that they want, let them heal their pockets first." Tiwi's mother gasped at her words. She tried to convince Tiwi, but Tiwi was not willing to listen. She had lost hope in churches. To her, none of them could help her. She wanted results, not long services and empty promises. Later that day, her mom's cousin Uju came visiting again. After seeing the state that Tiwi was in, she suggested that they go see a spiritualist who was known for her great powers. "I have seen her do great things that doctors and pastors couldn't," Auntie Uju said to Tiwi's mother, who was totally against the idea. "We are not interested in visiting a spiritualist," Tiwi's mother said to her cousin Uju. But Tiwi interrupted her saying, I will go, Mama. Anything is better than this pain. If you won't take me, I will go by myself," she said to her mother, who tried to convince her that such places often brought more harm than good. Tiwi desperate for instant healing, insisted on going. She followed her mom's cousin, Auntie Uju, who took her to Isiagwo, a powerful spiritualist who lived in the outskirts of the town. Her hut was surrounded by herbs, skulls of animals, and strange drawings of snakes that sent shivers down Tiwi's spine. Yet, there was something strange about her presence. Isiagwo studied Tiwi in silence and then told her to sit before a large bowl of water. "You have been touched by an unclean hand," Isiagwo said, revealing that the wig given to her by her friend Abike carried more than just hairs. It carried evil spirits, sent to collect her destiny and enrich Abike's father. Isiagwo revealed to Tiwi that she was used for money rituals. Abike was not an ordinary friend. Her father used her to get young girls who they would use for money rituals. Isiagwo, after revealing this, handed Tiwi a calabash filled with strange liquid and instructed Tiwi to wash her face with it, and when she is done, she will keep the substance in her sanctuary for 3 days. During this time, she said to Tiwi, "You must not speak to anybody. You must not open your mouth to say a word, not even to your mother, not even in prayers." Tiwi looked at her confused. "You mean I can't speak to anyone for 3 days?" She asked Isiagwo, who revealed to her that silence was the sacrifice. "If your lips move, your healing will vanish," she said to Tiwi, who nodded in fear. She washed her face and her head in the bowl, wincing at the sting of the herbs on her wounded scalp. After the ritual, Isiagwo whispered a blessing over the bowl and took it inside. Tiwi, still trembling in fear, walked out of the strange hut with her auntie Uju. As they were walking through the footpath leading out of the spiritualist's house, they saw a strange-looking boy, not older than 8 years. The little boy approached Tiwi and said in a gentle voice, "Sister, please can I talk to you?" Tiwi froze. Her heart pounded. Her lips parted slightly to respond, but she quickly remembered the stern warning Isiagwo had given to her. Tiwi held her mouth tight and took a step backward. She looked at Auntie Uju, who immediately stepped forward, shielding Tiwi with her body. "Go away from here, you little demon," Auntie Uju said to the little boy. The little boy quickly went behind Auntie Uju, hugged Tiwi tightly, and walked away. When Tiwi arrived home, she didn't speak to her mother or anyone else. She locked herself up in her room, crying bitterly as she felt the worms crawling in her hair. Her mother knocked on her door severally to pray for her, but she did not open up her door. The silence felt like punishment and prison, but she endured it because she wanted to be free from the pain that had stolen her peace. That night, Tiwi managed to doze off a little. After several nights without falling asleep, she had a dream that greatly terrified her. Tiwi saw a strange woman chasing after her with a knife. She woke up terrified, drenched in her own sweat. She sat on her bed, panting heavily as her hands trembled. The image of the woman with a knife refused to leave her mind. She reached for her scarf to cover her scalp so the worms would stop crawling up on her body. As she reached into the pocket of her dress, Tiwi felt a soft paper. With shaking hands, she pulled it out. It was a small wrinkled note. Tiwi stared at the note curiously. She could not remember placing anything in her pocket, so she opened it up slowly and began to read. "Abike is innocent," the note read. "She never wanted to hurt you. And until Uju, your mother's cousin, is the one behind it all. She paid the taxi man to kidnap you on that fateful night. She also made the maggots to come out of your head to make you believe that it was the wig. She even went further to pay a visit to Abike to inform her that you were cursed so that she would stay away from you. Auntie Uju is your real enemy. She wants to ruin your life completely because of her jealousy. Please be careful." Tiwi could feel goosebumps all over her body. She wanted who could have left the notes in her pocket. Then suddenly, her mind raced back to the little boy who tried to speak to her earlier. Everything began to make sense to Tiwi. The way Auntie Uju insisted on taking her to the spiritualist, the way she shouted at the little boy, and now the dream. Tiwi could not believe it. She had blamed Abike, believing that she was the one behind everything that was happening to her. She sat on her bed and sobbed uncontrollably. She had pushed away her only true friend and left her enemy close. In the morning, Tiwi broke her silence. She told her mother about the notes, and her mother broke down in tears, regretting all her actions towards Abike. She revealed to Tiwi of how she had a dream when someone was cutting Tiwi's hair days before Tiwi brought the wig home. That was why she concluded that Abike was evil, not knowing it was her cousin Uju, who through diabolical means caused her daughter to make them suffer. Tiwi in that moment pleaded with her mother to take her to the church, and without wasting any time, her mother agreed and took her to the church, which was a short distance from their home. The pastor, after listening to their story, stretched out his hands and began to pray for Tiwi, who felt an instant relief from the itching scalp and the worms that had tormented her for weeks. Meanwhile, far away from the church, in Auntie Uju's house, something terrible was happening. Auntie Uju, who had been peacefully sipping her tea in the living room, suddenly dropped the cup and screamed in terror. She stumbled to the mirror, and to her horror, she saw the maggots pouring out of her scalp, just like they did to Tiwi. "No! No!" she screamed, slapping her head wildly. Her neighbors rushed in, only to find her rolling on the floor, scratching and screaming, and begging for help as the worms broke deeper into her skin. It was clear that the evil had backfired. Tiwi received her healing, while Auntie Uju suffered the consequences of her evil from that day on. Tiwi learned to listen to her mother, who had always tried to protect her, even when she didn't know why. She tried to reach out to Abike, who she was told had left the country for her higher education. Tiwi spent years healing. She became more prayerful and more discerning. Auntie Uju was never seen again. Rumors had it that she was taken to a psychiatric hospital. Some other people whispered that her condition could not be cured, as the spiritual worms never stopped coming out of her scalp. Everything she had planned for Tiwi had returned to her sevenfold. The moral lesson of the story is that we must learn to listen to the wise counsel of those who truly care for us, especially our parents, as their warnings usually come from a place of protection and love. We should not seek help and solution from harmful and ungodly places. I hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you for watching.